Congressman
Mr.
Lord.
Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
So this is my time, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, napag-usapan kasi kanina ang IRM na-raise ni Representative Barzaga. Balikan ko na rin yung IRM, Mr. Chair. Lagi na pag-usapan ng mga earlier hearings pa na ang IRM ay hindi naman bagong mekanismo. This has been resorted to in the past, supposedly to respond to certain calamities and other fortuitous events. And in fact, marami ng circulars sa mga nakaraan ang tungkol sa IRM. We have circular number 4, series of 2014. Ito yung IRM for healthcare institutions in areas directly affected by Yolanda. Meron ding circular number 24, series of 2014, dagdag na IRM para sa mga HCIs in areas directly affected still by Yolanda. Merong circular number 26, series of 2017, IRM naman ito to expedite the recovery of the healthcare system in the city of Marawi. At ang pinaka-recent, Mr. Chair, itong circular number 7, series of 2020, which is actually a revision of circular number 34, series of 2013. Basically, this circular number 7, 2020, incorporated IRM, which was not part of circular number 34, series of 2013. Ang unang kong tanong, Mr. Chair, we will notice that in all earlier circulars, the IRM had very specific purposes and coverage and made particular reference to specifically identified calamities and fortuitous events. Ang mga circulars na to clearly mentioned the IRM was intended to aid HCIs that may have been critically affected by clearly identified calamities or fortuitous events. For example, Yolanda at Marawi. Ang tanong ko una, Mr. Chair, why is it that circular number 7, series of 2020, does not refer to any specific calamity or fortuitous event?
Dr. Pargas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to defer to our corporate legal counsel to respond to that. Attorney Llabe.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The basis of our circular 007-2020 is the 2496, and I'd like to invite the Honorable Congressman to fifth whereas po, which for us, this is a blanket authority which allows Philhealth to have an IRM be included among the special privileges that may be conferred during fortuitous events and emergencies. And because of this 2496, the PhilHealth Circular 007-2020 was adopted, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, this is quite inconsistent with the earlier manifestations ng mga earlier na hearings. Kasi lagi sinasabi, what prompted the issuance of circular number 7, series of 2020 was the COVID-19 pandemic. Ito yung nag-prompt. Kaya inisyu itong circular na to as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we're being told now na ang intention pala talaga nito ay maging blanket authority para sa PhilHealth na magbigay ng IRM sa kahit anong fortuitous event that may arise sa panahon ngayon. Ang sunod kong tanong, Mr. Chair, if the general terms of the current circular are meant to cover COVID-19 pandemic, kasi yun ang sinasabi dati, why is it that there is no mention or reference to pandemics or diseases in the rationale of the circular, Mr. Chair? If I may read, Mr. Chair, yung rationale does not mention pandemic or diseases if indeed the general terms are meant to cover the COVID-19 pandemic. Kasi yun ang sinasabi earlier sa mga hearings, Mr. Chair. Okay, ito yung sabi ng rationale. The recent fortuitous events that visited our country or events described as an act of God, like floods or typhoons, or an act of man, such as rebellion, insurgencies, and wars, bear witness to the inherent powers of the same to effect displacement of communities in several endangered areas. These are what the IRM under Circular Number 7, Series of 2020, is supposed to address. There is no reference to any pandemic. There's no reference to the COVID-19 crisis. There's no reference to diseases in general. Bakit po ganito? Kung totoong what prompted the issuance of the circular is the COVID-19 pandemic.
Dr. Pergas.
The circular 007 is not an issuance for the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, it is a revision on the special privileges which can be given when there is a fortuitous event. And the IRM, as stated earlier by Attorney Labe, is now part of that particular special provisions or special privileges during the time of a fortuitous event. So, however, Mr. Chair, in that particular circular 007, under its policy statements and general guidelines, a declaration of a state of calamity or a state of emergency or any other analogous certification on the fortuitous events are required for the application of this circular. Please be noted that there was a declaration of national public health emergency in March and also a national state of calamity also in March. This state of calamity and this state of public health emergency is due to the pandemic caused by the COVID as it is.
So what we're saying now, Mr. Chair, is that the earlier manifestations, no less than the President of Philhealth, that what prompted the issuance of Circular Number 7, Series of 2020, was the COVID-19 pandemic, is incorrect. So parang sinasabi natin, mali pala yung sinasabi ni President Morales na what prompted the issuance of this circular is the COVID-19 pandemic. No, we're saying now na hindi naman pala yun. No? Well, lumalabas ngayon, Mr. Chair, na talagang napakalawak ng coverage ng circular na ito. No? It can cover just any calamity, any fortuitous event na maaring mag-arise sa panahon ngayon. It's very different from the earlier IRM circulars, Mr. Chair, because the earlier IRM circulars clearly identified the fortuitous event, clearly identified the areas of coverage. In this case, napakalawak. No? Lumalabas, blanket talaga ito. And perhaps that's the reason why, Mr. Chair, that they pegged it at an overestimated amount of 27 billion. No, as earlier pointed out by Congresswoman Estela Kimbo, na nasa less than 4 billion lang ang estimated cases, no, ng COVID-19. Ang IRM natin ay nasa 27 billion pesos. Okay. My next question, Mr. Chair. Ganyong ang Circular Number 7, no, Series of 2020, ay revision ng Circular Number 34. No? We all agree that this circular is actually a revision of Circular Number 34, Series of 2013. At ang pinakamahalagang revision dyan, pag tinignan natin yung Circular Number 34, Series of 2013 and Circular Number 007, Series of 2020, halos lahat magkapareho except that, no, ang salient feature dyan ay in-incorporate dito sa Circular Number 007 ang IRM na wala na dati sa Circular Number 34, Series of 2013. Now, since Circular Number 7, 2020 is a revision of Circular Number 34, at ating napapansin na halos magkapareho lang kanilang nilalaman except that IRM has been included in the latter circular, masasabi ba nating effective pa rin ang mga provisions ng Circular Number 34? No? Na hindi naman ginalaw ng Circular Number 7 Series of 2020.
Mr. Chair, the privileges po are retained, pero again, napasama na po doon sa sa privileges ngayon nga po is the IRM. Pero kung makikita rin po natin, sa circular po, dun sa revisions, lahat po nung italicized words and letters, lahat po yon are revisions to the circular. So katulad po nung tanong nyo, kung yung mga ibang provision ba ay effective or nararapat sa panahong ito, katulad po nung sa letter E on membership and contribution, so yan po ay nakaayon na rin doon sa mga bagong polisiya pagdating po sa membership and contribution.
In other words, Mr. Chair, yung mga special privilege under the earlier circular number 34 ay patuloy na ina-avail ng HCI at ng ating mga health providers. And on top of that, dagdag pa dito ang pag-utilize sa IRM. So ang sinasabi ba natin dito ngayon na ang i-avail nilang mga privileges maliban sa IRM ngayon, tuloy pa rin ang pag-enjoy ng privileges under circular number 34.
Mr. Chair.
So mas masarap ang buhay ngayon, Mr. Chair, kasi patong-patong na ito ng mga pribilehiyo. At
Honorable Fortun? Honorable Fortun? Nawala po si Congressman Fortun.